Welcome, everybody. I will call to order the regular council meeting of April 24th, 2023. First, I'd like to acknowledge that the Northern Rockies Administration Center is located in the heart of the traditional territory of the Dene, Cree, and Dune people of Fort Nelson Prophet River First Nations. We further recognize the rights provided by our treaty. Finally, we also celebrate the contributions and the enduring presence of the Métis people in our region. Please be advised that tonight's meeting is available for the public to attend virtually, is being streamed live and recorded. Are there any additions to the agenda tonight, Council? CAO.
Yes, Mayor, just one, just a technical amendment to the museum budget. Council has just, I'll walk you through when we get to it here.
Okay, thank you. Are there any attendees who wish to comment on the agenda? Anyone online? Anyone in the gallery? Okay. Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to adopt the agenda with the amendment. Councillor Enax, moved by Councillor Enax, seconded by Councillor Gerwing. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. I'll ask for a motion to adopt the minutes as follows. Committee of the Whole, March 27th. Committee of the Whole, April 11th. And Regional Council, April 11th. Can I get a mover? So moved by Councillor Enax, seconded by Councillor Andrews. Are there any errors or omissions? Hearing none, I'll take a vote. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Is there any business arising from the minutes from council or staff? None? Okay. All right, we have a proclamation to make today. This week is BC Water and Waste. I'm sorry. This week is Drinking Water Week in British Columbia. That is occurring May 1st to May 7th. So whereas human health is dependent upon an abundant supply of pure, clean drinking water, and whereas safety, quality, and abundance of water can only be safeguarded by sound environmental protection, appropriate treatment, and properly maintained distribution systems, and whereas we are all stewards of the water infrastructure which future generations depend upon, and whereas each citizen of our community is called upon to help protect our sources of waters from pollution, to practice water conservation, and to get involved in local water issues, and whereas federal, provincial, and local governments, as well as concerned organizations, are cognizant and supportive of measures which promote safe, clean, and abundant water and responsible wastewater management, and whereas one such measure involves heightening public awareness of the value of our drinking water resources and encouraging the public to promote this awareness. Therefore, the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality, along with BC Water and Waste Association and the province of British Columbia, hereby proclaim that May 1st to May 7th, 2023 shall be known as Drinking Water Week.
I have a comment.
Yes, Mayor Fraser.
Thank you very much. I don't know if our Director of Public Works is in the room or not, but I think they were planning on having a few events in the community, and I'm just wondering if there's anybody from staff who could, there she is, if staff might be able to just comment on some of those activities during the week.
Great.
My apologies, I was hiding in the weeds here. And
oh.
I was trying to be stealthy. So Jasmine's in attendance to collect the proclamation for Drinking Water Week. So, but just to briefly advise, we plan on doing some tours, and there's some coloring contests, and we have a swim day, and people can earn free swims, and the tour of the water treatment plant, which we have every year, and it can happen at any time on request, is usually pretty popular, and we hand out prizes like rain barrels.
Great, wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. Petitions and delegations. I'd like to welcome Lisa Lopez, Program Manager for WildSafe BC. And Lisa, I'll invite you to begin your presentation. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you. I'm just going to share.
And also Kim Aglinski is here as well with WildSafe BC. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Kim. want to make sure I have the right one. All right, so yes, I'm Lisa Lopez and I'm here from WildSafe BC. I'm the program manager. And I'm here to share with you the results of the human bear interaction survey that was completed in 2022 in the Northern Rockies program area there. So our survey, our community human bear interaction survey, was developed by WildSafe BC in 2020 with consultation from social scientist Dr. Beatrice Frank. The survey is designed to systematically collect information about people's perceptions of bears, the number of bears in the community, the types of human bear conflicts that occur in the community, and on respondents' properties, and barriers and solutions for reducing bear attractants. Province-wide, RAP and WARP reports only represent a small fraction of overall bear activity in the community. So the survey administered to Fort Nelson residents went out via SurveyMonkey, as well as paper copies were distributed to residents. And responses were received over a 2-month period from August 26th to October 27th in 2022. A total of 172 people participated in the survey, representing 5% of the population. The survey consisted of 44 questions, with questions 33 to 44 being personal information questions that were not included in the analysis. The survey allowed us to measure and better understand the community's concerns about safety, other risks associated with bears, and barriers for managing wildlife attractants. So in question 1, which was is just there, which of the following best describes your feelings towards bears? We had percentages here. I like having bears in the area was 11%, 13% was I like having bears in the area, but I worry about the conflicts they may cause. In the middle there, it gets a little bit of a larger response for I like having bears in the area, but I worry about human safety specifically. And that was at 30%. And then the 41% there is I don't like having bears in the area. And I have no particular feeling about bears was a very small 5% there at the bottom. So when we look at that, the top 3 where people are enjoying having wildlife nearby in the areas that you're in the area that you're living up there, we have a few different levels of being comfortable with having bears or towards bears, having comfort towards bears. So when we looked at the questions that are associated with feelings towards bears, as there are a few of them, 81% agree that with that ecological role of bears as being a reason for having bears around. 53% believe in learning to coexist with bears as sort of a normal thing for residents of BC. 73% believe that bears are a risk to public safety, and 44% are fearful of encountering a bear. And on the next slide, we have a spread here that shows the difference between black bears and grizzly bears, as we do have the 2 species that occur in the area there. So there's actually a higher level of fear associated around black bears compared to grizzly bears. And then again, there was a fairly even spread in terms of having the same feeling towards black bears and grizzly bears from the respondents in the survey. And then question 7 was of interest when we were looking at the results. In your opinion, in the past 3 years, how has the number of bears that enter your community changed? So there was a quite a large response to the fact that, or to that perception that bear numbers have increased in the community over the last 3 years. And then question 8, connecting with that, how has the level of conflicts with bears in your community changed? And again, the response was increased. Those conflicts have increased. So some perceived causes for the increase in bear activity and as well the increase in conflicts were given by follow-up questions to those couple of questions. So the respondents, when we collected those responses from the people that participated, these were the ones that came up most often. So there was the perceived cause of fencing of the landfill having happened in the last few years, overpopulation, attractants, so garbage, birdseed, fruit, chickens, ornamental crab apples were all listed by people that participated. Left to roam free in town, lack of wildlife management, COS is not removing bears. Again, were all comments made by participants. Grizzly bear hunting ban and lack of black bear hunting, changes to the regulations in terms of hunting, social media hype, lots of activity on Facebook was commented on in that section. Vacant or neglected lots and properties in the area, careless people, and climate change. So those were the most commonly mentioned causes that people noted. Frequency of bear sightings. So how have you seen bears on your property or on your street in the past 3 years? So there was kind of an even split here. Some people 1 to 3 times, some 4 to 6, some 7 to 10, and some more than 10. So again, this is over the past 3 years. And either on their property or on the street, near to their property. What activities were bears doing on your property or street? And then select all that apply. So this was a multiple answer question. So majority were general sightings. They noted that the bear would be passing through. The second most common was accessing garbage. And the third most common from there was eating fruit, apples, plums, cherries, etc. And then eating berries from ornamental planted trees and other were tied up there and forth in terms of the responses, number of responses. As well, there was some responses under eating produce from home gardens as well. And it's on this slide, we take a look at actually 2 different questions. So have you reported bears in your community to the Conservation Officer Service, which is something that WildSafe BC recommends to people. So in that there's about a 50-50 split there. And it is interesting to note how the question was phrased. So the question didn't phrase it as asking for general sightings. So have you called the Conservation Officer Service through the RAP line to report bears accessing non-natural attractants involved in negative interactions, being aggressive and or being in populated areas where they can pose a risk to human safety? So there was that question didn't allow for what we saw on the previous slide, where many people had noticed that bears were it was a general sighting kind of noticing of bears in the area. So that was kind of an interesting note to make as we were looking at these results. And then the second question on this slide is how important is it that your community becomes bear smart? As you may know, the WildSafe program has been working with the bear working group up there and the various stakeholders to try and get through those bear smart criteria and become a bear smart community. So it appears by this information, if you take a look at the brown and the blue there, 28.8% feel it's important, and then another 47.9% feel it's very important. And then this question was related to like if they haven't called the RAP line or reported a sighting on the RAP line. This question connected with that. So if you haven't, why haven't you? And so there were a couple different answers with this, but they hadn't experienced a type of interaction that wasn't just a sighting. They didn't feel it was necessary. And then it takes too long for conservation officers to come was pretty high up there, and then other. And I'll talk about the others towards the end here. I can pull up those answers. There were a lot of variations in those answers, the other option. And then there was also the portion of the survey that asked about attractant management. So what barriers do you experience that prevent you from taking action to prevent bears from accessing your garbage? As we noticed in an earlier slide, garbage was very high on the level of bear activity in neighborhoods and on properties. So there were some different things that came to light here, but it was of interest to notice that there were quite a few people that said, I have no issues as I already store my garbage securely indoors. So there were a lot of respondents that were able to respond that way. And interestingly enough, on the other section, those comments, there were several of them that came through that were all of the above. So they really wanted to have an all of the above option. So they felt like, you know, they're doing all of the different things and they didn't have barriers because they were doing all of the different things. So they were putting their bird feeder away, they were cleaning up their fruit tree, or they didn't have fruit trees. They were putting their garbage away. They were only putting it out on at that certain time period. They were freezing things that would be smelly before putting it into the garbage. Things like that. So that was kind of an interesting piece of the other section there. And there was a chunk of people who commented on the fact that they didn't have freezer space for storing that garbage, the stuff that smells indoors. So that's a challenge or a barrier that comes up for them. So the next piece or the next slide shows some of the sources of information that people would get. And I guess I should actually hop back, sorry. I missed my note here. On this attractant management section of the survey, several respondents felt that, you know, in order to avoid conflict or lessen the conflicts that are happening, I should say. Several respondents felt that the removal of bears was the answer. And then also another point to make was that other attractants that were mentioned, were fruit trees, compost, bird feeders, pet food, outdoor freezers, chickens, and beehives. So those were also asked about in this section of the survey. So then we did have a question in there about where are you sourcing your information from? So we did ask the survey participants where they're sourcing their information from, which is always a bit interesting in terms of, you know, where do people get the information that they get. So that was kind of an just a overview. This is an overview of the different ways that people are getting their information about wildlife, wildlife attractants, managing attractants, etc. Barriers that get in the way, and how to what are the different strategies for wildlife management as well. So internet is pretty high up there, friends, family, word of mouth, personal experiences. WildSafe BC has a presence in your community. I can see that with that falling down there in a pretty high level, over 40%. And then we did, as mentioned, have some questions just to figure out where the demographics are of the people that are participating. So most of the people participating in the survey are year-round residents. 82% responded they live in single-family homes, and most own their own homes. But there were some renters as well that were included in this. It is of note to consider that only 139 out of the 172 answered the demographic questions to allow us to sort this detail. So it's about an 80% response rate on the demographics. And so I opened it up to questions. And I know that Kim is there, and I believe Sean is there as well, maybe a few others in the room that may be able to also help with questions. So
Great, thank you very much.
welcome.
Kim, did you have anything to add to the presentation?
Please.
I'll use your mic, please.
No, Lisa did a great job. There's not much I could add.
Very informative, yes. Do we have any questions or comments from council? Anyone online? Okay. Hearing none, thank you very much.
Oh, that was easy. Feel free though to reach out if there are questions to come up.
Great.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Okay, moving on to our next delegation, I'd like to welcome Kathi Dickie and Ryan Dickie of the Fort Nelson Handgames Society, and I'll invite them to begin their presentation. Thank you.
Perfect. Good evening, everybody. I would just like to thank you all for the invitation, and Brenda for putting us on the agenda tonight. For those that don't know me, I know most people in this room. My name is Ryan Dickie, lifelong resident of Fort Nelson, a member of the Fort Nelson First Nation. Been working in the oil and gas industry as a consultant now since 2009. I'm also a filmmaker, photographer, father of two, but and I'll let Kathi introduce herself before I get into kind of our society.
Eklado Gonezu. Good day. Sizikla Kathi Dickie Onde. My name is Kathi Dickie. Thank you for making time for us on our agenda. Masicho in our language. So we're here to talk about something that is absolutely amazing for our community. So Masi.
Yeah, so I'll just start by I wish I knew the setup here. I would have brought a PowerPoint, but I'm pretty good at those. But anyways, the Fort Nelson Handgames Society was established in 2018, and it was under the vision of my brother, who really seen a gap in some of our cultural opportunities for a lot of our youth in the region, specifically at the Fort Nelson First Nation. So he went out on his own for several years and was traveling to communities in the north to get a better understanding of this culture, this tradition that we nearly lost here. And in 2018, formed the society. We had our first event in August, on August long weekend, and it attracted about 12 teams from out of the region. And following year 2019, we hosted another event which attracted about 25 teams from out of the region. So it was starting to grow, and then COVID happened. So that kind of took us back a bit. So this event in 2023 that we're proposing and planning fundraising for will be the first event since 2019, and it's shaping up to probably be even bigger than the one in 2019. So what we're expecting, just rough numbers, conservative, are between 25 and 30 teams traveling from outside of the community to come to Fort Nelson. And just putting my numbers together, I estimate that to be about 500 to 800 people. It depends on obviously how many people each player brings with them in terms of family size, spouse, that sort of thing. So most of those people would be staying in a hotel or at the campground, somewhere in Fort Nelson, spending money here. And just in terms of the economic impact, I think there's a really big benefit to partnering with the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality and at the rec center. And just to touch on that, I spoke with Krista Pearson Saturday, I think it was, and she's very, very excited about the opportunity to do something on Canada Day long weekend. We had a really good conversation about how we kind of envision things to look with that amount of people coming through the doors. And I really think with our facility, it's just an outstanding facility. It would be, we have the potential to be a marquee destination in the Handgame Trail. And I guess I should probably touch on the tradition of Handgames for those that don't know. So Handgames is essentially a complex guessing game where the object is you have a token in one hand, or either hand, whatever one you want to hide it in. You propose your hands to the shooter closed, and the shooter, which is the person on the opposite team, that's supposed to guess which hand each player is hiding their token in by using a variety of signals. If you get it wrong and you miss that person, they successfully hide their token, they earn a stick. And the object is to score all 21 sticks to win that match, best 2 out of 3. And this game has been played for time immemorial. Like as long as our people have been orally passing on history, hand games have been a part of Dene culture. And traditionally, it was just the men that played for spiritual regions and things of that sort. When there was colonization was starting to happen, it was banned. The Dene drum was banned, all of those things. So men would go out basically in hiding to play the game to keep the tradition going. And from those days, things have changed, and inclusivity is definitely a big part of it now. We do have mixed tournaments. The last tournament we hosted was a mixed event in Prophet River back in February. And but this one is kind of an ode to that old tradition, because for me personally, having played in both, and I think if you were to watch both, you would feel that kind of spiritual connection to the traditional game, because it is such a long-lasting, ancient part of our culture. And it really has a profound impact on our youth and our community. One thing I will say is our people, and I've worked, in different communities all over the north through my photography and film work. And the community where my auntie and my dad grew up in, where I'm from, a member, has been severely impacted by colonization, residential schools, those things. So it was something that we've almost lost. And now that we're bringing it back and being able to present this to this council, I think speaks a lot in terms of where we are today and what this council envisions we can become together. And I think an event like this is a really, really powerful place to start. We're really excited. We just announced it 2 days ago, and my phone's been ringing like crazy. People from places like Fort Good Hope, which is near the Arctic Circle, Yellowknife, Northwest Alberta, all over Treaty 8, the Yukon. I think it's going to have a really, really good turnout. So we wanted to present that to the council so they have an idea what to expect. And if you had any questions, obviously we can answer those. And but I think just with that type of impact, that amount of people coming through the community for this weekend, it's good to start the communication and the dialogue today to be able to answer any of those questions or concerns. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
So we do have a working group, but we'll be doing, going to need all hands on deck. We're going to need partners, we're going to need supporters, we're going to need volunteers. So we're looking at having a community-wide planning meeting early May. So just kind of keep an eye out for that. But again, we welcome people to participate, work together. I think again, with reconciliation, that's a main way of coming together and learning about our culture in a really fun way. So
I guess you could speak to that too. Like this, we're offering similar to our tournament in 2019, the prize payout, and people kind of gasp at these. Like the last tournament I went to, which was in Ray Edzo, an hour, west of Yellowknife. The prize payout was $150,000, but they're at the heart of this tradition up there. So they get 62 teams on average per event, which pays for the payout. We feel comfortable enough doing this every 2 years that we can come up with the money through fundraising to do a $75,000 payout tournament. And if we have a shortfall where we don't quite get enough teams to cover that amount based on the amount we fundraised, it's probably coming off my line of credit. That's how valuable, that's how valuable this is to us as a society, because for me growing up, living here, growing up here, I didn't start playing hand games until 2018. It just wasn't a thing we did. It wasn't a part of, our annual celebration for years. It slowly started making its way back. And then now that we've got youth engaged, it just seems to be growing. But the other thing we really, which was the idea behind the society, was we needed a sustained cultural presence where we can do something without any interference whenever we needed to or felt like we wanted to. Because with the youth, it's important to, stay going, stick with it. Otherwise they lose interest with TikTok and all that stuff. So yeah, consistency is key. So the society, we're going to do a big event every 2 years, but we plan to do more things within the community workshops, stuff like that, that just, to have a presence and a sustained presence is important to us. But yeah, that's where the prize payout's coming from, rental, the food, the water, all of those things based on the money that we fundraise through the community. And the community has been really supportive over the last, since 2018, which we're really grateful for. But our vision, obviously, we were talking with Bev the other day, is to be able to grow this to the point where we have enough equity and we build it up enough in terms of support that we can actually purchase land in town and build a cultural center in town. And the example I gave was where my mom's people are from in Alert Bay. They have a cultural society there that they've got their own cultural center in Alert Bay where they're able to showcase the culture on a more broadly, like a tourism level, but also to their community as well. And I really think this event has the potential to be have an impact on the tourism sector as well. I've got a few friends in the tourism industry at Destination BC and Travel Northern British Columbia, and they're happy we're doing something again. They want to come up and create a video behind it or whatever it might be. But yeah. Anything else?
Great, thank you very much. This is very exciting news for the municipality, both culturally and economically. Do we have any questions or comments from council? Councillor Enox.
Will help.
Yeah.
So just keep me posted. Yeah, whatever we can do to lend a hand.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a fun time.
That's what I would like to close with, was just the support from the community of Fort Nelson and several members of the Fort Nelson First Nation as well. Like just the support we get every event. For us, it's a lot of pressure because we have to fundraise a lot of this. I'm sure you feel that too with a lot of the events you run. But in the end, like Fort Nelson always shows up. And that's one of the reasons that we're able to do what we do, is because of the community of Fort Nelson and how people come together. It's why I love living here, why I haven't moved. Yeah.
Great. Mayor Fraser, go ahead.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Kathi, for the presentation. I agree with Kathi when she says it's a great opportunity for the communities to gather and learn from each other and understand each other's traditional cultures. And I think this is a great idea. I've been able to get out to the Arbor on the annual celebration, and I heard the turnout at last year at the Roy Gardner Park was very good. And from the spectator numbers that I've seen, that these games will rival some hockey tournaments that and spectators that I've seen at the arena. So, I think this is something that the people of Fort Nelson will enjoy, and they'll be able to get out. And I wrote recently in an article that this is something that we can enjoy. We can enjoy hockey and hand games in this community, be happy watching both. So I certainly support your organization working with our staff to make sure that we can figure out all the details. Obviously, the devil's in the details when it comes to fires and things like that. But thanks for the presentation, and I certainly look forward to helping out.
Councillor Souls, please go ahead.
Yeah, I second the motion that this is a great idea. I think it's fascinating too that it may result in a better, the timing of it being on Canada Day and on the July weekend is an absolute perfect fit to have way more impact than if it were any other time. So anyway, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be good. Thanks for bringing that presentation.
Are there any other comments or questions?
Yeah, thanks so much for coming to present. I'm really excited. It's going to be a great time. And I'm sure that you know about the different grants available. So NDIT, you also know that there's fee waivers available at the NRRM. So I'm sure that Hillary can, if you aren't aware of all of those grant opportunities, then she can hook you up with that, and as well as any of us around the table, I'm sure too. So thanks very much for coming tonight.
My last comment, in the spirit of reconciliation, I see half a team here, Councillor Souls and Mayor Fraser and Councillor Andrews and Councillor Roper. Just come up with former players and put in a team.
That's a great idea. I like that.
You need to find us a coach.
Yeah. If you think we have what it takes.
Yeah, with that, I would just like to, in the follow-up correspondence to this meeting, if you had anybody that we should be in contact with at the municipality, that would be great for our planning. And then like Krista's been great. We had a really good conversation. I think we're going to do a walkthrough at the rec center to kind of pull things up that, might help us plan a little bit better in terms of managing people like that. But yeah, anything from the town that you feel prudent that we know, then yeah, follow up, and we'll be glad to take that and run with it.
Will do. And we really appreciate the information. Being as the hand games are in the preliminary stages, it's good to have this as soon as possible. So when you are ready for any requests from the municipality, please let us know.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a great evening. We'll see.
Yeah. See. Okay, moving on to administration report 22/23. We've got the British Columbia Energy Step Code coming in very shortly here. And speaking to this report is Sean O'Shaughnessy, Chief Building Inspector for the NRRM. Sean, please proceed.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council, Acting Mayor. Sorry, I missed that. Follow up on that one. I can't touch that at all. No way. So before you this afternoon is just for information, admin report regarding the BC Energy Step Code. The BC Energy Step Code in 2017 was an optional performance path to achieve higher energy efficiency within new home builds. Up until May 1st of this year, it has been optional. As of May 1st, due to Ministerial Order number 40, it will be a mandatory pathway within the building code. So with that comes a number of different things that people will need to do. They will have to hire an energy advisor, and they will have to do energy modeling of their home. There will be a requirement for blower door tests as well at various stages of the construction. So this is strictly right now for a new build of a residential home or a Part 3 building, which is a commercial building. So the plan is the province's plan is by 2032, all homes will meet net zero ready, which means that they basically consume as much energy as they produce. And that is the goal, and that's towards climate change and everything like that, and carbon. So there will be a point where I will have to bring back an amendment to the building bylaw for you guys' readings that will allow residential builders to continue to build prescriptively, which means the way that the code is actually worded right now, if they want to build that way as of May 1st without that amendment, they're not allowed. They have to do it via step code, the performance path. So step 4, they're thinking that that will be introduced in 2027, which will be 40% more efficient than a regular home build is now. Step 5 by 2032, which is supposed to be 80% more efficient. There is I included a great link on here that provides a lot of information about the step code. And in an effort to better understand it as well for myself, staff, and council and mayor, we're trying to get some professionals up here to provide some education. As this really came about pretty quick, even though it was optional since 2017, it kind of sprung the mandatory piece on us within the last few months. So we've got a lot of catching up to do. We do have time because there aren't any residential bills coming up right now, but now it's a good time for us to get that education in place. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Shaughnessy. Do we have any questions? I see you have your hand raised. Mayor Fraser, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for that report. And I am looking forward to whatever education opportunities you can bring into the community to help us builders and staff understand this step code. My question was about these consultants. Do we know whether there's an expectation that these consultants need to be in town? Can the work be done remotely? Does there need to be inspections? How much do we know about that? Because if we're expecting potential new home builders to bring somebody in, or do we expect that there'll be locally established consultants to deal with this?
Yeah, so the requirement are the certified energy advisors and energy modelers. So they can be all in one, or they can be 2 separate individuals. And they can do the energy modeling remotely. However, they have to come to site to do what's called the blower door test, which is they put the house under negative pressure for a certain time frame to reach a certain number of air changes per hour. That has been modeled by the energy advisor. And if you don't reach that air changes per hour limit, then you fail the test. And you have to figure out where your leaks are in your house and your air barrier and that sort of thing. So the closest professional certified energy advisor right now is in Fort St. John. I have been in contact with her. She's also an architect. I'm actually looking at trying to get her up here for some of the education, but that is definitely a hurdle. We're not the only community facing this hurdle right now. There are a lot of us. The Community Energy Association has a northern branch that we've been in contact with, and we're trying to see if we can get some information, better information, more education, and some support for the building community that way as well.
Yeah, just to follow up if I can, that your report seems to suggest that it's not just once, but multiple times throughout the construction project that these door tests need to be performed. And you know, to pay an architect's wages to come to Fort Nelson multiple times during a build is going to cost home builders in this community, you know, probably enough to stop them, you know, to make it uneconomical to build new houses.
Absolutely, Mayor, and that is one of the concerns around all this, especially in the north. I've been in contact with a number of other building inspectors from Prince George North, and we're all share the same concerns. However, they do have easier access than we do. The thing we need to consider is that we're not paying, it's not an architect's wage. They would be hired as an energy advisor. Very, very high numbers that they've given me with regards to cost would be, it would cost approximately $1,200 to do the energy model, and they would charge approximately $300 for a blower door test, but that doesn't cover the LOA. So then that's still to be considered. Mandatory blower door test is required at final. So once your house is up and ready for final inspection, that's the only mandatory requirement. However, it's suggested to do one at mid-construction, because if you fail it at final, you have to start ripping drywall off to figure out where your leaks are. So the only thing that's mandatory is the final piece. There's a lot of hurdles. I absolutely agree.
So then just my last question. What are the criteria for becoming one of these inspectors or one of these advisors? Do we know what it takes?
Yeah, so I've looked into that myself as well. There are 3 exams I believe you have to take. And then once you pass those exams, you have to be, don't quote me, but I believe it is, you have to work under a recognized servicing agency and for a certain number of hours. To have, it's kind of like your journeyman and your apprenticeship. You have to get those number of hours and your recognition in there to become your own individual energy advisor.
Thanks.
Councillor Souls has his hand up. Go ahead, Councillor Souls.
Yeah, I find this this is a little bit revolting. Just it's one thing to identify the cost of the assessments and the measuring as you go, but there's also the cost of the building itself. And I find the STEP program that's outlined there, as you outlined it for, this is only a partial step in the near future. You get a handle on this and then have a even more stringent requirement in a very few years ahead. All of this in the context of a well-known provincial housing crisis. I think that there could be opportunity for councils if given that there's quite a bit of difficulty now figuring out how to move ahead in all sorts of communities, that I think we should at least give it some thought to have some pushback on this. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Gerwin, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with Councillor Souls. I think as a starting point, would like council to consider sending a letter to the appropriate ministries outlining what this will mean for rural and remote communities.
Councillor Andrews.
Yeah, I would also like to know if they have any idea on how they plan to roll this out. We already have a skilled worker shortage on top of everything else. So having more skilled work needed, I see it. There's so many bottlenecks to having homes built in BC with this program coming through. It would be nice to know if they have any information or plan to help negate lots of these bottlenecks.
So just to your point, Councillor Andrews, just for reference, frame of reference, currently the way that a house is currently built, if a house was to be built here today, as it's always been built, we will be sitting pretty close to compliant with step 3. Step 3 right now would be the kind of the devil's in the details. Just a little more attention to detail with regards to your tapes and your air barriers and that sort of thing. The additional cost, of course, is the energy advisor and the model, no doubt. But that was my big concern, was the difference in how you build. But that will be the education piece that I'm hoping to bring here, and people with more experience than me can shed better light on it for sure.
I have a question. Will this impact renovations or retrofits on existing buildings? Does this code come into effect for those?
Those ones are still in discussion. The only thing currently that is exempt is log homes. But they haven't forced renovations yet because they're not sure how they can measure that. When you have a 50-year-old home and you want to build a small addition onto it but make that energy efficient, they're still trying to work those details out. So for now, it's just new builds, residential builds, sorry, not garages or shops.
Thank you very much. Are there any more comments or questions? Okay, hearing none. Thank you very much, Mr. O'Shaughnessy. Moving on, Administration Report 2323, BC Hydro Public Electric Vehicle Fast Charging Network Plan. Speaking to this report is Lisa Thompson, Director of Regional Development and Planning. Thank you, Lisa.
Good evening, Acting Mayor and Council. So before I get into the report, we do have Joey Can and Joe English from BC Hydro joining us tonight on the Zoom meeting. So if council has any questions regarding this program, then they'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. So the report before you just basically introduces the BC Hydro Fast Charging Network Plan. Myself and Director Harvey Woodland met with BC Hydro approximately a week ago to talk about the potential for a partnership between the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality and BC Hydro to establish an EV fast charging station here in Fort Nelson. There's also plans by BC Hydro to establish EV charging stations along the Alaska Highway by 2024. So the report before you in the analysis section speaks to some of the requirements that Northern Rockies Regional Municipality would have to undertake to be a host of one of these sites. It essentially results in us having to maintain a parking area similar to the standards that we would maintain our own parking spaces to. And we would enter into a license agreement with BC Hydro for them to be able to occupy our privately owned property. So that information is detailed in the report, as well as the information related to what BC Hydro would provide. So the costs for installation and operating and maintaining the site would be borne by BC Hydro, including the hydro costs associated with the EV charging stations. There's an example, there's some photos in there. I thought it would pretty it up for you guys. Some photos in there of the different types of installations that BC Hydro considers. Ideally, the pull-through configuration is the most efficient for getting the most number of charging stations in one location. And then we, myself and Harvey talked to BC Hydro about some potential locations which are identified in that the proposed site on the 3rd page of the report. So essentially, just to reiterate, we would be required to enter into a license agreement. It's generally a non-exclusive 10-year term license, as well as an MOU with BC Hydro that would allow them to apply for funding through the Natural Resources Canada programs, which is going to help fund these stations. So with that, I provided a recommendation for council that the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality enter into an agreement and a memorandum of understanding with BC Hydro to permit the establishment of an EV charging station on our property. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Do we have any comments or questions from council? Mayor Fraser, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I read this report last week. Thank you for it. I'm trying to remember, I think these were level 3 charging stations. I'm trying to remember the time frame that it takes to charge a vehicle fully. Like how much time would a tourist, say, be spending in the community? Was it 30 minutes or an hour?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
oh, sorry.
Yeah. Oh,
I could answer that, Lisa, or if you want, you can go ahead too.
Yep, go ahead.
So yeah, good evening, everyone. This is Joey from BC Hydro. I'm one of the program managers on the EV infrastructure site development team. So Mayor, so just to answer your question there, the charging power levels we're looking to supply here are the 100 kilowatt hour chargers. So this would be able to get, drivers back on the road in roughly 30 to 40 minutes. So as a bit of an estimate, for every 10 minutes you have your vehicle plugged in using a 100 kilowatt hour charger, you would recuperate about 100 kilometers worth of range. So 30 minutes would give you about 300 kilometers. These are, again, the level 3 high power charging stations, which is, it's the most ideal form of charging to get users back on the road as soon as possible.
Thanks for that, Joey, and thanks for coming to our meeting. I recognizing that and recognizing that, from an economic development perspective, we might have people in the community for, maybe up to an hour. And I just noticed that the locations that are picked are at the extremities of the downtown core, or really even out of the downtown core. And it makes sense to me that we might consider a brownfield or something that's closer to the downtown core to consider putting one of these. So when people are in town charging up, they have access to the businesses in the downtown core rather than having to walk. They just might not walk. They might go to the arena or they might walk around the park, but they probably wouldn't walk downtown if they were charging their vehicles. So I think having it downtown, we should consider a brownfield site if we have to purchase something to get this into the downtown core. My thoughts.
Yeah, thanks for that feedback. You know, in general, we do try to target areas that are, we've got a few criteria. I'll just list a few to get us off here. So good access to the major highway, which I think should be no issues, as we are taking a quick look at Fort Nelson here, and the Alaska Highway just runs through town. So I think, you know, we could definitely look at options that are maybe more business centric. We also would like to look at locations that have good access to three-phase power. So again, these high power charging stations, they have to run on three-phase. So any overhead distribution lines that we have good access to tap off of that will be able to power charging stations. So in that respect, location wise, we'll have to, you know, see how that may work out. Another thing we also look for is 24/7, 365 access. So, you know, any sort of lots that's not gated would permit users to come in, charge up, and then leave. That's another consideration that's we look when from a site selections perspective. And then obviously we have some technicality work that we got to do in the background to make sure that, you know, the layout works out and there's no conflicts with underground utilities and things like that. But, you know, there's a few things that goes into a site selection. And, but, you know, having said that, you know, being able to support local businesses is, you know, one of the things that we think can, you know, is added benefits for these charging stations. So we can certainly look at other locations in the downtown core, like you suggested as well. But as of right now, it's just an idea. We just wanted to gauge the understanding of interest from you guys. So, you know, this is very, very early discussions at this point.
Great, thank you. Are there any other comments or questions from council? Hearing none, we have a recommendation here in the report. Would anyone like to move that recommendation? Councillor Growing.
Do you want me to read it again? Lisa did read it once, but I can read it again. A
Yes, please.
motion that the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality enter into an agreement, license, and an MOU with the BC Hydro and Power Authority to permit the establishment of electric vehicle charging stations on municipality-owned properties.
Second.
Okay, we have a seconder. Councillor Andrews seconds. Are there any final comments? Mayor Fraser, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. Just that last comment to follow up to make sure that the staff is aware that it's not just those three selected points in the report that we're considering. So it doesn't need to be in the motion, I don't think. I just think as long as staff understands that we want to look at a larger number of potential properties.
Great, thank you. It's good to keep our options open.
Yeah.
So I'll call the vote to question. All in favor? All opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Joey.
Thanks, Joey.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, moving on to Administration Report 2423, Animal Control and Pound Services Follow-Up. Speaking to this report is James Childs, Fire Chief with the NRRM.
Is James on the line there? Okay. Yeah. Well,
Take it away, James.
You and James up here, I'll just briefly speak of the report's a result of the discussion that council had the last committee of the whole meeting. Relatively straightforward, and I think is James queued up there now? There he is. I'll just pass it on.
So good evening, Mayor and Council. Apologize for not being there. I'm just in between teaching special arts classes. So in regards to, you wanted a follow-up with the current animal control contractor about extending some evening hours and the weekend hours. Currently today, she does answer the phone after 4 o'clock up to around 7 to 7:30 in the evening. And if it's an emergency, like a dangerous dog or a dog that's causing some major issues around town, she will respond and deal with the animal. If it's non-emergency, she'll take all the information down with the complainant and she will follow up first thing in the morning. On the weekends, if her phone rings, it's the same thing. If it's an emergency, she will deal with it as soon as possible, like us right away. But if it's a non-emergency, she will take all the information and deal with it on Monday morning. She's willing to extend her contract to extend hours, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. She just requests that we go back into negotiation and negotiate a new contract with her. So she is willing to do that, and she's very flexible on going above and beyond what the current contract asks of the contractor to date. She has been called out on weekends. She has been called out on the evenings, and she patrols basically almost every day of the week. So right now she's not even breaking even with the current contract because she patrols more than what's required. But yeah, any questions from Mayor or Council?
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Councillor Gerwing.
So I think I just heard you say that she's patrolling 7 days a week.
Monday to Friday.
Monday to Friday. Okay, so it's not, so that was my question, because it says patrols are current, the report says patrols are currently conducted on a daily basis. So the question would be, that's Monday to Friday. That doesn't include the weekends. So when I originally brought this up, I thought we were going to ask the contract holder if she would be willing to look at a Tuesday, like take that 5 days and have Tuesday to Sunday. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, I wasn't
Like,
aware of that, but I definitely can follow up for sure.
Yeah, that was, I guess maybe I wasn't clear enough, but if it's 5 days a week, the current contract I think is 77,100 for 5 days a week. I was just wondering if not to have more days, but have those 5 days to include some patrols or possible response on the weekend. I don't want to see her losing money on this. I think we need to make it attractive for a contractor to be doing this. I think we've all realized what it's like when we don't have anybody doing it. And I've heard nothing but great things as to the service that this contractor is supplying. So I want to make it as, well, I just don't want her to be losing money, because then she's not going to do it, right? Just to put that out plainly. But I do think that it's important to have some sort of coverage on the weekend, and including some sort of patrols, especially during the summer months.
Any other items for, or any other questions or comments? Okay, and there's no recommendations. I don't think we're taking any action tonight, but Mr. Childs, you'll follow up with us regarding Councillor Gerwing's inquiry about shifting the 5 days from Tuesday to Sunday.
Yes, I will definitely follow up with that tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, moving on. We have the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality 5-year financial plan bylaw, number 215, 2023. Speaking to this report is our Director of Finance, Trevor Ryerchuk. Trevor, thank you.
Good evening, Acting Mayor and Council. The bylaw before you is the 5-year financial plan. So it's the the culmination or the next step after the budget is approved in principle. So basically, the approach is to take the 2023 budget and make a projection out for the next 5 years. Within the bylaw itself, it has the projection in a schedule, as well as information with regards to policy and principles that the NRRM follows in developing the plan. So I'll open it up to any questions.
Great. Do we have any questions? Okay, hearing none, we have a recommendation. Would anyone like to move that recommendation? Councillor Andrews.
I'll recommend that the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality 5-year financial plan bylaw number 215, 2023 be given first, second, and third readings.
Okay, moved by Councillor Andrews. We have a second.
I'll second that, Mayor Fraser.
Seconded by Mayor Fraser. Any comments? Okay, we'll take a vote. All in favor? All opposed? That passes unanimously. Okay, great. Moving on. The tax rates bylaw number 216, 2023. Speaking to this report, Director of Finance, Trevor Ryerchuk. Go ahead.
Again, just a follow-up and part of the process. I'll just open it up to any questions if you have.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Ryerchuk?
No questions, but I'll make a recommendation that the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality tax rate bylaw number 216, 2023 be given first, second, and third readings.
Great, we have a mover. Do we have a seconder for that motion?
I'll second that as well.
Seconded by Mayor Fraser. Do we have any comments? Okay, all in favor. Oh, go ahead.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Okay. All in favor? All opposed? That passes unanimously. Okay. Great. So we'll move on to correspondence and information packages. Is there anything here the council would like to discuss? So we'll just receive this for information. All 3 items of correspondence. Oh, Councillor Enox, what would you like to discuss?
The fish stocking. I knew it was cost.
Okay, hold on. I think we need to make a motion to pull that for discussion.
Oh.
Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Enox, seconder. Councillor Andrews, all in favor? All opposed? Okay, that passes. Please proceed.
Do we know if there's fish stocking in Fort St. John? Do they come up to Fort St. John? As far as I'm aware, they do.
I'd have to check. I couldn't say for certain.
I'm just so disheartened that they just, because we're 4 hours further, that they just don't.
Yeah, we can check that on the website.
If we can dig a little deeper.
When I read the letter that came back, it's apparent to me that they are doing stocking on occasion, and when they do it, they do. I'm just forgetting the numbers. 1, 3, 5, 8 are being stocked because they're being used. It's only number 2, which is this side of Prophet River, and it's quite a hike back into it. And the other one is Beaver Lake up the 77 highway. So I don't think they're canceling any other stocking. It's just those 2 spots that they're. So there's my understanding, if they're going to stock, they're still going to come here. They're still going to stock all those other ponds that are frequently used. It's just number 2 and Beaver Lake that they're not going to stock. That's what I interpret, and I everybody else read it. I hope but that's the way I interpret the letter from the Ministry of Forest.
I didn't get that.
Yeah,
but
sorry.
if we could just
I didn't read it that way.
confirm that they are still going to come up and stock those ponds, the ones that are being used. I didn't get that from that letter, but
I was really disappointed with the response. I felt that they just took the same letter pretty much and put a different date on it. So it was exactly the same. They're not going to do it. That was what I got out of the letter.
Yeah, I'm just pulling it up here now.
We can confirm that for council. It was our understanding that they explained reasons for certain ones, but this restocking program was going to discontinue for all. That was our understanding. I can see where it could be interpreted a different way in the letter, but we'll confirm, council. And also confirm just regarding the how far north do you go in terms of towards 14 John and whatnot.
Yeah, so if I can just read that second to last paragraph, it essentially says the decision to end stocking of Beaver Lake and Burrow Pit 2 was due to low overall angler use. So that's telling me that's only those other two. I mean, there's all the others, 1 through 8. Like we can follow up, but my understanding is those are the only two that they're gonna stop stocking.
Councillor Andrews, did you have?
Yeah, I was just, I guess depending on whether or not they're stocking anything, is there an opportunity that we could help find them funding? Like, I don't imagine they're going to be looking for funding anywhere, but is there some sort of recreation grant, something that we might be able to look for to help sweeten the deal for them to come up? Just an idea.
Mr. Barry, do you have any information on that?
Nope, I don't. I mean, I don't have any problems making another inquiry if we feel that the letter is that I'm ambiguous.
Okay. Any further comments or discussion on this letter? Okay, hearing none and receiving the other letters just for information. We'll move on to a letter from Sue Kenny, General Manager of Community Futures, Peace Yard, for discussion regarding the request for a letter of support. Does anyone want to speak to this?
I can speak briefly. This came in, I believe late last after the agenda was published. It's an NDI grant that came out that was available earlier this month, specific to a business liaison position. And they reached out and asked for our for letter of support from council specific to their grant opportunity. And I'll also note that we're also not that it changes what council support would be for them, because they kind of look like a broad northeast component per se, like Peace River South, North and Northern Rockies area. But we're also as an organization looking at that grant to see if there's an opportunity for us to if something worthwhile for us to apply for too. So just for council's information.
Great. So we have a request. Would anyone like to make a motion to support the letter? Yeah, please do.
So just a question, if we're supporting one grant application and we're putting in our own grant application, does that look a little weird?
I don't think so.
No,
we're looking at the opportunity right now. I mean, we just discussed it this afternoon. So we support obviously Community Futures and an opportunity for a business for what they're doing. It's my understanding there's 15 opportunities in the north for an NDI opportunity. So I think one could possibly complement the other.
Okay.
That's what we're looking at anyway. So it's a conversation to possibly have with Community Futures to see exactly what they're looking at, what the position would look like. And then is there an opportunity locally that we could possibly do the same? We're not 100% sure yet because we're still digging into the opportunity. So.
Okay.
Yeah, my experience with grants is letters of support to get those grants. So we might be asking them for a letter a little later on. So, so would anyone like to make that motion to write this letter of support?
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
I would move that the NRRM write a support letter for the Community Futures application to the Northern Development Trust for funding a full-time and 2 half-time regional business liaison positions.
Excellent. We have a mover. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Enax. Okay, any more comments or discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. All right, we have council information package, April 12th, council information package, April 19th, receipt for information. Moving on to new business items. I believe CAO Barry had a technical amendment addition to the agenda.
Oh, yeah, thank you, acting mayor. And for those on, I sent Councillor Dickie, Mayor Fraser, and Councillor Souls just some information, but if you look at the documentation in front of you, it was just a oversight when the budgets were done for the museum. The museum had actually requested that we're going to utilize or indicated they wanted to utilize the remainder of their reserve funds, $27,053 to finish off their project this year. We didn't show it as a line item from a transfer reserve, so it doesn't change the net grant or the actual net tax levy, but it does change what their transfer reserves are, which just increases from 27,053. So looking for answer any questions you might have, and looking for that resolution to council to make that amendment.
Great. Do we have any comments, questions, concerns of this capital transfer? Anyone?
Are we technically out of sync with what we just did by passing giving 3 readings to the 5-year capital plan? No. Sorry, the 5-year budget.
It's included in that document.
Okay, so
I guess you could say, yeah, it's the changes, man. Of course, it doesn't impact the tax levy, as I mentioned, Mayor, but it is included as part of that.
All right, thank you.
Great. Would anyone like to make the motion? Okay, Councillor Enax would like to make that motion. Can you clarify what the motion is, Mr. Barry?
To make the to amend the museum budget to include a transfer from reserve of 27,053.
Thank you very much. Moved by Councillor Enax. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councillor Andrews. Any more comments? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we'll receive our recreation statistics for March 2023 for information. Are there any standing items for discussion? Would council like to speak to either of the items listed, council reports or business outstanding? Any reports? Okay, great. Okay, notice to motion. Are there any motions for which notice will be given? Okay, hearing none. Move on to the public and media question and answer period. Are there any questions from the public or the media in attendance, virtually, in the gallery? Anyone? Okay. Hearing none. I will ask for a resolution to move to a closed meeting. Can I get a resolution? Okay, moved by Councillor Andrews. I can read it out. I'll ask for a motion that the meeting be closed pursuant to section 90, 1J of the community charter. Section J, information that is prohibited or information that if it were presented in a document would be prohibited from disclosure under section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Disclosure that could be harmful to business interests of a third party. We have Councillor Andrews has moved that motion. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Gerwing. Thank you very much for keeping me on track here. Okay, we'll take a temporary adjournment and I'll declare the meeting temporarily adjourned. Okay, I'll recall the regular council meeting. There's nothing to rise and report. So I will ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Can I get a mover? Moved by Councillor Gerwing, seconded by Councillor Andrews. All in favor? Any opposed? That passes. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great evening.
Good job.
Bye. Well, thank you.